What's up, beautiful beings? What's up, gang gang? What's up? What's up? Welcome again to the new year. Welcome to 2026. How it was happening in 2016. Yeah, what was significant in 2016 actually? Comment down below. Mukuthi, line in 2016. What has happened also in the last 10 years? Because I feel like sometimes we disregard time and we disregard the personal development and the things that we go through on a daily basis, which accumulates to 10 years, right? So, yeah. Happy 2026, so in this video I am going to be talking about basically my anxiety. Somebody's watching me, it's my anxiety. I'm going to be talking about anxiety, basically my anxiety. I remember the first time I acknowledged my anxiety. I think it was in 2018. So what I did is I wrote a poem, and I think it's still somewhere here on YouTube. I wrote a poem in which I was basically just expressing myself and speaking to my anxiety as if I was talking to someone, and yeah, maybe I'll put it somewhere there because it's I don't think those are copyright issues. But anyway, today I'm going to be talking about my anxiety. I'm going to be talking about motherhood and also being a CEO, and yeah, how do I navigate, how do we navigate, especially with so much pressure to perform and to be good, to show up for everyone, especially when it comes to motherhood. I mean, it's a 24/7 job, we don't have breaks, and we're always grateful to receive time or assistance. The reason I'm smiling is I'm thinking that usually we feel so guilty, when someone helps us. We feel like it's because it's our responsibility. That when someone else helps us, it feels like it's so generous, so I think it's important for us to also understand that we don't know where these human beings are coming from, okay? We don't know. We happy, however we show up all the time, and we show up for different aspects of our lives. We need to show up for ourselves also, and look good and feel good so that we can reciprocate the energy to other people. So yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Okay, we're going to go through the enlightenment and self-awareness before we actually go into 2026, because if you do not plan for your day, your day will plan for you, right? Your day will be in charge of you. So if we're not in charge of our year, and self-reflection at every given moment, so that we can be the best version of ourselves and not just say it but actually be it, and I was watching this one lady who's talking about lazy moms, that sometimes it's okay to be a lazy mom. You don't have to be perfect 24/7, understand? It's okay to prioritize yourself, and prioritizing yourself sometimes is taking a rest, okay? Taking an intentional rest. So as a mother, how do we navigate anxiety? I know in the previous video, or in one of the videos, I mentioned that as a mom, sometimes I don't have time to be anxious because kids will just push you to the limit where you are at a breaking point. I used to say with you, I'll never yell, I'll never do this, I'll never do that. Having a boy child, it's a lot. Okay, so it has also taught me discipline. I feel like I need to show up how I expect my kids to show up, even though giving my own personal story, right? So I didn't grow up with my mom, to say the most. I've explained that I lived with my aunt and my grandma, and then I lived with her for like 5 years, and then lived with my sister. However, in these 5 years, she was always at work. She used to leave at 4 o'clock with the practical bus, then she would go to work in Pretoria, and then she would come back late around 10 o'clock. So I parented myself basically. So most of the things that I knew were from the ladies that would come through and stay with me for the night, and then maybe go to work in the morning, things like that. So I changed nannies from time to time, right? So I never really got to know her like that. However, I had to learn to parent myself now. To how do I wish I was parented when I was a child? What are the things that I need to teach my child that I didn't know that I wish I knew? And it's sometimes it's very tough, because I really don't know which direction am I supposed to take now, but also having the assistance, it's very important, in guidance. So that's why we're here for, so that we can all be together. Because sometimes some people will say, no, you must hit that child. Some people must say, no, don't hit that child. Some people say, put them in time out. But what if all of those things are not working out? What are the options that we can look into as parents? Because we also cannot sit back and look, and we also have other things that we are tackling, in our professional lives, and never mind the personal lives, okay, child, because being a wife and girlfriend or partner also comes with its own challenges, and so how do we balance all of that? Okay, so my first time experiencing anxiety, I remember I was pregnant, and it was my first pregnancy. So I was not feeling well, Gasa, because at the time I was like, Mama, 11 months, going to 12 months, like it might as well have been a year. I was tired, and my baby was so big, too. I had twins. It was a lot, okay? So because I did not know what to expect also with pregnancy, I didn't know, and nobody has ever told me anything about pregnancy, about children. I didn't even know I needed to go for checkups. I didn't know the responsibilities, what was required of me, and all of these things. I just knew that I was with child and I needed to deliver, because I also cannot believe in abortion, so that's just my own personal, that's what I did, and I don't judge people who do it. At the end of the day, it's a decision, and also it's most of the time we look into the circumstances. However, there is a more healthier way in which, if you are not ready to have a child, you can do a certain process to deliver yourself from that circumstance and invite the child or the spirit, because in the day it's spirit, to invite the spirit when you are ready, so however at that time I didn't know that, so I decided that I'm gonna pursue having a child. Anyway, so I found myself now, I was in 11 months going to 12 months, so there was also some spiritual bondage that was happening during the pregnancy, but I just told myself that if the child is supposed to be delivered, then so it shall be, because and that's what happened. I delivered. However, when I was in labor, I remember this doctor saying to me, oh my gosh, you have anxiety. I felt like once we young I take, because I don't know what was that anxiety, and I don't like labels. I don't like people labeling me. I don't like people telling me about me or telling me something that I don't know about myself, So, but I noted that, okay, fine. He said I'm anxious, so I need to know what did he mean with I'm anxious or I'm suffering from anxiety, So after giving birth and everything, I then started researching anxiety. So that's when I realized that I'm not the only one that has anxiety. My mom has anxiety, my sister has anxiety. Basically, it runs in the family, except for my brother. My brother is more of the chilled, however, he can get agitated. However, anxiety is just an emotion, and then the day it's how you feel. So I was like, okay, anxiety, okay, and I looked into it, see what causes it and all of these things, and then I started being more self-aware, right, and just wanting to notice when the anxiety would happen. So yes, I got into situations that would make my heart pound like it was like my heart is pounding, or I'm like agitated, especially if I'm about to write and all of these things. So when I started learning more about the feeling, it helped me, especially when it came to the schoolwork. Instead of being anxious about the schoolwork, I'd actually do it so that I would have to work. So sometimes anxiety hits us because we don't know, right? So the idea of not knowing the outcome puts us in a flight fight mode, so you are very activated, so you need to respond. Your body feels like it needs to respond. And that's when now I started learning how to feel safe in my own body, how to feel safe within myself, right? That when I'm anxious, my body is trying to tell me something about myself, because usually I am a calm person, I am quite relaxed. So when I have an overactive energy within myself, I become aware of myself. Sometimes I don't notice it in that moment. Sometimes you will notice it when it's happening. However, as you learn yourself, as you spend more time with yourself, solitude is also important, so that you know and understand your energy. And I would highly recommend that, especially if you're going to get into a relationship or you want partnerships and all of these things, because other people can project their energy, right? Or you can absorb other people's energies and you end up feeling how they're feeling, and then you think that that's how you feel, but it's not you, it's them. Okay, the solution didn't come easy, right? Like I said, I would put myself in situations that would make me anxious, right? So whether it was relationships, whether it was friendships, and all of these, situationships that we get ourselves into. And despite all of that, being anxious about schoolwork, being anxious about my work, and not just, I'm also reflecting on when I used to be anxious a lot, because now I do get anxiety here and then, but it's not as severe as it was when I was in varsity, right? So with me reflecting on it is, when I was struggling, I couldn't voice out that this is why I'm struggling. However, I'm grateful that I had a group of friends who understood anxiety and understood, its impact. And when I would feel like I'm anxious, I remember this girl would ask me, "What are you anxious about? Why is it making you anxious? Why do you think it triggers that emotion? What is it?" And identifying the why actually has helped me get my sanity, right? Because then I understand why I'm feeling like this, instead of just basking and staying in that moment. So there's also pressures of being a woman, right? So, and that's one of the reasons I love this channel, because I'm also reflecting upon the women that were there for me when I was experiencing all these emotions and transitions, right? So there's a lady who would speak on my behalf, and made me also identify what are the things that were making me anxious. Is that sometimes we have to perform, we have to become different characters and adjust to big life changes, that we are not given a chance to pause and see it for what it is. So I remember I was a student, I was a friend, I was a mom, I was a child, because at the time I was still living with my mom. So you have to be a child and a mother. So it's very challenging also getting into that character, as much as we might, that's why the girls end up not getting along with their moms, because it's just that now you feel like that you're a woman and you need to also discipline and reprimand and all of these things to a child, and also accept it in the same roof. And I also understand why back in the days they used to just arrange marriages, for girls, so that they can avoid sleeping around and all of these things. I'm just saying that I don't wish I had an arranged marriage. I'm grateful that God located me to my husband. However, I understand, given how the society is operating now, we are all on a flight mode. I believe some traditions are good, although some traditions we can definitely let go of. Okay, I'm just saying. So I also didn't realize how much I was carrying until my body started reacting, right? And I needed to respond to that reaction, because I'm just like, okay, what is it? It sounds like it's a calling. It sounds like it's something trying to tell me something about myself, right? So that's why you find people who normally have a calling would experience a lot of anxiety, right? Because you have your higher self that is always calling you to ascend. So it is important to understand that it also comes in forms of, overthinking, right? If your leg is always shaking, or you're biting your nails, or that means that you're overthinking, right? So your mind is overly stimulated, right? So it's important also to see being ama techniques. We look into techniques that can assist us with overthinking, because overthinking is a natural habit, right? Because our mind races and we are thinkers. If you're not thinking, then that means that you did. So how do we become more in control, or how do we flow with the thoughts? So what I would normally do, right, is that I would look at it as the clouds, right? So you're looking at every cloud. You don't have to chase clouds. Like, thoughts are like clouds. You don't have to chase the cloud. You just observe it and let it go. Observe, let it go. Observe, let it go. Observe, let it go. So those are like thoughts. So the problem is that we hold on to clouds, and even when the clouds like fading, we wanna hold on to it, and that's what also causes a lot of anxiety, and right. And the fear of failure also causes anxiety, because you go to the ultimate goal and you basically see yourself there in that goal and as a failure, and you become depressed before you actually achieve it, and sometimes we limit ourselves. So it's important to understand that anxiety, it's an emotion that shows up in our body to help us identify how we are feeling and what we are most probably thinking about, because thought and emotions, they go hand in hand, right? So that's just what it is. It's not uguti manje, there's something wrong with you. No, it's just an identification. It's like alert, and then you gotta be alert. What am I thinking about? How am I feeling? And you don't have to even force it or try to get out the answers. That's why journaling helps. Just write it down and the answer will always come. Because when you meet God, the answers that you always have will always be answered. And you are God. You are a vessel of God. In this body. So we also have fears of not being good enough, which goes hand in hand with the fear of failure, right? So if you're not feeling good enough, that's why it's important. It always starts with self. It starts with solitude. It starts with how are you feeling, about yourself, and how you feel about yourself. The other person is just going to reciprocate that energy, because umuntu cannot love you more than how you love yourself. At the end of the day, they can only give you the energy that you give to yourself. And one of the things that triggered my anxiety that I learned to identify was that I carried responsibility very young. I think I was like 19, and I didn't realize that I was from an unprivileged background until recently, right? When people started now pointing it out, and it was very bizarre to me, because I've always been this girl. Like, I've always been classy, and I've never identified myself with any circumstance. So it was really weird to see, especially when your own family members are the ones that want to remind you of where you come from or the person that you were, but now you're born with your transition, and we're growing. I mean, like, cannot be the same person over and over again. But I've always taken it because I was at school being a student, so I couldn't really afford the things that I wanted, and my mom is my mom, that's her own salary. My dad is my dad, that's his own money. I think had I been from a rich family, I would still be the same, but I don't know. But It's just basically understanding that yes, sometimes we take responsibilities from a young age. Sometimes, our resources or circumstances or background does not really allow us to want to reach for the highest, because our anxiety also gets in the way of us seeing us bigger than anything else. And also there's people who feed that anxiety, sometimes to remind you of the person that you don't want to be anymore. And it's okay to also let go of that version, and allow them to stay with that version if they want to remember just that version of yourself. So motherhood taught me boundaries. Okay, motherhood taught me boundaries, and it taught me to set my foot, because kids will test you. Okay, and then motherhood is a chance. Okay, they be doing the most. They be doing the most. Okay, it's really boys. It's like, imagine dealing with a man and then dealing with young boys. Oh, child. Yeah, I'm need to learn to set boundaries, being a choice. So I also learned to rest without feeling guilty, because I'm always delegating, right? I also learned how to delegate, because I nobody got time to do all of this, like I got things to do, so if I can delegate it, if I feel like you can do it, then I understand. So I've learned to also delegate, and so that I can rest more, right? I'm not gonna be doing everything by myself. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna do that. You understand? So everybody needs to be responsible, right? We need to all be responsible and coexist and assist each other, in the house, whether it's maintaining or making sure that it looks good, all right? And assistance, and all of these things. And I realized that they actually teach them at school, right? So at home we put everything into practice, learning how to cook together, assisting each other with tidying up and then all of these things, and having a bonding relationship where they have their own relationship as kids, we have a relationship with the parents, basically just having a maintained structure. So I'm also a solid girly. Okay, so yes, and having sons and a husband means that I get to be a little bit more soft, and catered for, because sometimes I'm just the only female in the house. Okay, so I need to be taken care of. I don't need to survive. No, I choose, being myself. And the hardest one for myself was reparenting myself while I parent my child, because I cannot tell him to do something that I'm not doing. I need to do it even better than him so that he can see how to do it, which was a challenge, because there's a lot of bad habits that I needed to leave that I used to do also as a child, because he cannot think that is right. So the things we do, like sometimes it's really, I feel like with us, the 90s kids or whatever, we are forced to grow up. So that's what happened. Just needed to grow up. When I was doing matric, all I wanted to do was go to university. The last thing I wanted was to get pregnant, right? However, I wanted to go to Cape Town. I had my life planned around that, and my marks were good, right? So I had also been accepted at Stellenbosch, so I was ready. However, sometimes it's important to not share all your dreams with someone, because sometimes you would share your dreams until you're telling the devil himself. Okay, so now I had to adjust to being a mother, right? Instead of now pouring into myself, I had to learn to pour into someone else, right? And my cup was already empty. And at the same time, I'm trying to break generational curses. I'm not trying to get into the system, because I know the system would not benefit any or myself in the long run. I saw what is happening before it happened, which is, companies not wanting to hire because they would rather save and make profit than actually going to the expense of paying people, and I understand that now as a business owner, that automation is the way to go, AI is the way to go. So I understood that going to school was now not an option. I needed to teach myself. I could not depend on the amount of money my parents have to take me to university. I could not depend on myself to have the money to take myself to university and take care of myself and take care of my child and basically be a child and all of these responsibilities. So I know, as much as sometimes the decisions that we make might look reckless from the outside, but however, it's important to have inner peace within yourself and understand that as long as you're doing it for the benefit of your future, whether it's your future or your children's future, and it's all worth it, and I see now the decision that I took there is benefiting more than just my children, and that is the greatest blessing that I believe I could have received from God, that now I am in a position to help others who were in the same situation that I was in, who were confused, who were depressed, and all of these things, and are wondering what tomorrow is going to hold. Is this certificate, is this diploma going to assist me in any way? Am I going to get a job? Because we're all excited about the matric results and the pass rate and all of these things. However, I feel like we've been excited over the years. Every year we're excited about the matriculants. However, what are we doing practically to assist them? So in all of this that is happening in my mind and all of that, I also needed to learn emotional regulation for myself and my child, because if I'm not okay, that means that my child is not okay. And I went through post-traumatic I went through postnatal depression, right? Because I was also thinking about where I wanted to be and where I was, right? And where I wanted to be was, I wanted to be a student, I wanted to be learning, I wanted to be in class, I wanted to, and all of these things. I don't want the responsibility of being a mom. However, I delivered the child as I thought it was a good thing to do. However, I underestimated the responsibility of having a child, and also being a single parent, so I needed to also learn to forgive myself. I needed to learn to forgive his father, and the reason I learned to forgive his father is so that I do not approach my child with anger. I don't approach my child, and I remember my mom approaching me with the anger. I remember seeing her and looking at her and realizing that it was not about me. She was projecting her anger towards my dad, towards me, and I didn't want that for my child. Guti Manje, I'm repeating the same cycle. And that's now when I also started seeing my own inner child in my child, and learning to adjust to him, and also his needs and my needs and everybody's needs, because everybody got needs, okay? And that's when reality hit me, that I couldn't pour out of an anxious cup anymore. I couldn't pour out of a depleted, depressed Jackie. I couldn't be that version anymore. I couldn't identify myself with that person anymore. I needed to ascend. I needed to be a different person. I needed to show up as a different person for myself and for everybody else, right? And it all started with me. At the end of the day, because I'm a main character of my story, honey, okay? And I realized that my child and everybody else, they don't need a perfect Jackie. I don't need to be perfect. I don't need to be perfect. I just need to be regulated. I need to be balanced. I need to be happy with myself. Because if I'm happy with myself, then everybody's happy with me and, my energy. Because my energy is very intense. Nasekaya, mind you. Even it's really intense. So when I'm tense, the whole house is tense. Go tense, because I can cut the tension with a sword, right? So I need to regulate myself make sure when I'm pulling up, I'm more, assertive. I'm more aware of myself, my surroundings, and everything that is around me. So these are the healing practices that I do that actually worked for me. Okay, so self-awareness 101. So I would say that I've always been self-aware, and being aware of my environment is something that I have always been, or always had. I didn't know it was a superpower until now, when I'm old and I realize a lot of people do not have self-awareness, and that's why I also teach about self-awareness, right? So self-awareness means that basically just knowing what you don't like what, just getting to know yourself, like as much as someone like you would want someone to get to know you. It's okay to also sit down and get to know yourself. Like, I used to romanticize myself. I used to take myself out on dates and all of these things. And when I receive it from my husband, it's not something that I was like, but I was really appreciative, because it's an energy that I give to myself. That's why the person you want can only meet you where you are, and it's never about that person. It's about you, right? It's always about you, right? So self-awareness, being aware of yourself, and it also comes with journaling. So there's this book I used to write a lot of quotes that I would get from books, especially self-help and self-awareness books, and I recently went through it, and I think I wrote it in 2016, and just reflecting on it, 2017, reflecting on it made me realize that it's a journey, and I've been on this journey of self-awareness, that when you write things down, it's really nice to look back and see what do you have done, or what you were thinking, how you were feeling at that time, and compare it to your current moment, and you find that there's a lot that has happened, or you have grown from, that you can actually be proud of. So there's also breath work that I do, right? I remember there was this one that I watched. It's about releasing DMT. Oh, powerful. So DMT is like a hormone, or like a high. I would say that that is naturally regulated, right? So you do breath works, I believe some churches also do it. The St. John, I think 444, as I'm making this video, buy around, and then you get dizzy and you fall down, and then in the moment, Nabazalwane, they also do fall. I believe it's the DMT working. Okay, but breath work helps, but sometimes you just need to take a deep breath, pause and take a deep breath, okay? Because it's too much, just I'm regulated. The other one that I actually like, right, is emotional awareness or regulation and natal chart. So natal chart ingisize kakhulu bafethu. Ingisize ngokuthi manje, like, literally I know myself better now. That's why I don't get anxious, because I understand myself. I understand my path. I understand why I think the way I do. I understand every part of myself, so much so that I understand other people, and I can give another person an natal chart reading. I understand my surroundings more, and the surroundings is very important. I keep saying I understand my surroundings more, is that your surroundings determine who you are. Your environment determines who you are. So it's very important to understand your environment, so that you can de-associate yourself from the environment, and you can get into your inner being and understand yourself from an inner being perspective, because if we are always in our environment, we absorb other people's emotions, other people's thoughts, other people's projections, like other people, other things, and it's not healthy. So faith and prayer. So what faith without prayer is vain, right? So I've learned to fuse the two, which means that I need to communicate more with God. However, I've always felt like I have a great relationship with God, that every time that I have asked for something, I have received it. I just had to be specific. However, sometimes it's like putting things into the vortex, right? That's what I understood. And I understood putting things in the vortex when I met my husband. I never used to understand what that meant, right? So it's just basically what sometimes you'll be thinking, well, I want my husband to do this, my husband to do that, my husband to do this, that, and you just begin to God. And then one day you meet your husband and then he has all those qualities. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Okay, so breath work again, slowing down. Slow down. Anxiety means that you're racing. Remember I said so it means that you slow down. Take a breath work. Hey, my husband is doing a nasal chart reading. So nervous system regulation, right? So it's basically just balancing your emotions, balancing your stress level, balancing the confusion, and I realized that speaking helps me regulate my nervous system, because then I get to talk about the things that are on my mind, and so being mindful means that you're aware of your surroundings, you're in the present moment, taking a walk, and just observing your thoughts, and that's mindfulness. Mindfulness means that you are aware of your thoughts. Doesn't mean that you can control your thoughts. No, we're not trying to control them thoughts, because it's a 24-hour job. Okay, so let's just be clear. Healing for me was never about aesthetics. It was never about the morning routine. It was never about, morning routine helps because you get, nice skin. You know what I mean? It was not about what I wear. It was not about what I have or what I don't have or what I do. It was more about saying no, and sometimes we would feel guilty about saying no, but it's okay to say no. It's okay to say yes. It's okay for the answer to be no. I had to learn that the hard way. And another one is sitting with the emotion instead of numbing it, instead of ignoring it, instead of titling it, instead of owning it, instead of making it mine. Just sitting with it and acknowledging it. Yes, I feel anxious in that moment. Does it mean that I'm an anxious person? No. I do experience anxiety. This now moves me into becoming a CEO now as a healed person. Healing has changed how I lead my life, how I lead my children's life, how I lead my marriage, how I lead everything that I touch, right? In such a way that I lead more now with intuition, with boundaries. So because I know how to make boundaries with my own children, then it becomes easier to make boundaries with someone that I'm not related to. So before I used to be like, maybe, being unsure and uncertain, and I feel like it's a good place to be when you're starting out, because it also helps you develop character. It also helps you understand yourself more, understand your product more, it's really because sometimes they'll ask you questions that you haven't thought about in your own business, and that can also sometimes make you want to take a step back and feel like you're not confident enough. However, it's important to understand that you can also learn as you work. You can also learn as you are in production. So I'm also in a space where I am no longer trying to prove myself. I'm no longer trying to reach out. I'm no longer, it's all about alignment. Are we aligned? Are we in the same spirit? Do we understand each other? So I choose purpose over pressure. So pressure looks like pressure to perform, pressure to get a salary, pressure to do this, do that. Everybody has expectations of you. However, I've learned that working in purpose, God always provides when you are in purpose, when you are in the path that God wants you, because a lot of people do not do the will of God. They're not obedient. So obedience also assists us also with the singing, just lean on God. You know what I mean? I didn't become a CEO to escape my healing. No. Actually, I had to heal in order to be a CEO, because it comes with a lot of responsibilities. It's like being a mom. I only started now healing after being a mom, because now the responsibilities also forces you to get your act together. You cannot always dwell on the past, on the things that happened to you, when you have so many things to do and so many things to take care of. So I also have 2 organizations, non-profit organizations, with each Indala Robotics and Alignment Holistic Center. So healing also has helped me to lead from empathy, right? And no, not much of an ego, and all of these things, baby girl, no, she good. Confidence is on par, okay? However, it's not about the ego, it's more about empathy and understanding myself from a different point of view, and also understanding how other people have seen me, which, as much as I've always felt bougie and all of these things, which other people have seen the struggles, okay? And that Jackie, I've met that Jackie in different bodies, whether it was a 10-year-old, whether it was a 15-year-old, 25-year-old, 30-year-old, whatever. I've seen my version of myself in all these people, because it's like my healed and unhealed version, and it makes it more relatable. Thank you so much for watching this video until here. And if you are a mom and you're just going through it and this resonated with you, this resonated with you, don't forget to leave a comment, like, and share with a woman that might need to hear this. So until next time, ciao.